Good morning, my friends. I hope you got at least some practice after our last meditation, being aware of and watering the seeds of joy and familiarity that are truly present amidst all the uncertainty and grief that are part of this time of our lives. Grief is a funny emotion, meaning that it's different from almost every other emotion, because it has a life of its own, a rhythm of its own. It comes up when we least expect it. And sometimes it comes up in a disguise where we don't even recognize it, but find that our emotions in response to other things are somehow quite exaggerated. And we are too angry, or too sad, or too weary from our own experience of how we usually are. There is quite a lot of unacknowledged grief that I see in those people that I work with that is being triggered during this pandemic. For me, I think this is coming out as a deep sense of weariness, like I've never really felt before. It's not depression, because it lacks that kind of self-recrimination that is so core in any depressive bunch of feelings. There's no self-blame or self-judgment. It's just weary, slow motion, slow thoughts, slow feelings, and too often, high irritability. This kind of grief might be called ambiguous grief, as opposed to the more traditional kind of grief that comes when we lose something that is very identifiable, such as a person who is dear to us, and feel that reeling sense of loss that's very active and alive within us. So let us consider this ambiguous grief today. And please allow yourself to be seated if you're not already. Resting your hands gently, resting your body gently, comforting yourself with the support of the chair beneath and behind you, and the floor that holds the soles of your feet. Everything is good right now, in this way. Allow yourself to bring that breath, that next in-breath, all the way up your body, from your belly to your chest, expanding your shoulders, your neck, letting your neck get very long as the breath fills it, and comes around through the top of your head and down to your eyebrows, your eyes, your jaw. Let your face be completely without expression. And notice what that feels like. What is that like? To be simply receptive, no expression of anything else. And on that next out breath, allow it to travel all the way down your body and out through the soles of your feet into the earth that is waiting to absorb it. And what is that like for you? To release the breath and all that it carries right into the receptive nature of the earth, the soil. You may notice that your body feels heavier, or just as though it is moving or sitting in your breath and your posture very still together. Simply sitting quietly in that stillness, heavy body, supported fully, breathing gently. And reflect for a moment on the losses that you are most aware of that form the structure of ambiguous grief. This could be one of your seeds of joy, that simple steadiness of breathing, support, and familiarity. Take it in. And when you're ready, allow yourself to wonder about how your responses to some things during this time seems exaggerated, more long-lasting than is familiar to you. This is the expression of unrecognized and ambiguous grief. And in mindfulness practice, we have the opportunity to become more aware of what it is that we are actually grieving and needing. Our need for human connection is hardwired. And as psychologist John Bowlby found years ago now, without it, people can fall into a syndrome called the failure to thrive, which may sound familiar right now. Some of us have lost relationships. Some of us have lost people to death and illness. Most of us have felt the separation and the daily interactions that are no longer as they were, and the physical distancing that requires a whole nother way of communicating, or not. Another type of loss is the sense of sadness that our normal way of living, simply going out of our homes and doing whatever comes next, have been stripped down, as we must take those extra safety precautions if we're going to do them at all. I know for me, I took a lot of my daily activities for granted, perhaps as many of us did before the pandemic. Now that ambiguous grief, which for me, unfortunately often emerges as irritability and weariness, is related to that sense of loss of our freedom to connect and just move about in our lives. I know I'm not unique. But until the other day when I was sitting mindfully with meditation, did I realize that this is actually part of grief. And as that awareness came, I felt tears running down my face, simply from acknowledging the reality that we are grieving, sort of like we need to know what we have before we can move into walking through it and restoring. So I ask you to wonder about this today, my friends. Even though you may not want to, it is important to sit quietly when you feel an exaggerated feeling or response to a situation or a person, and ask, what am I grieving? What losses am I most aware of? And allowing that awareness so that you can notice where it is in your body and breathe into it. For me, this is almost always right in the center of my chest, a little bit below the breastbone. It is like a rock, and I breathe into it, using my imagination and my breath. I am aware of my grief and how it sits in my body, just like that. Breathing out, I respond with loving kindness and welcoming that part of me to my awareness. As strange as it may sound, my friends, look deeply today. Underneath your exaggerated reactions to things that occur, or intense agitation, ask yourself, what am I most grieving right now? Welcome my grief. Talk to me. I'm here for you. And allow the ambiguity to become more clear and real. Namaste. Amen.